Very good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the NSSF Financial Literacy Program. Excuse me. This is the time of the day, the time of the year, time of the month when we come and converge ourselves into the school of money. We do so many things, we do so much learning, we do so much working during the month. And every month we say, let's get down one Friday, 2 hours, and converge ourselves in the school of money. Why? Because we are working for money. We get up to look for money. We are told money is lost. But whoever teaches us how to use money, where to get money, or how to handle money, the NSSF Financial Literacy Program is that program that has ordained itself and given itself the right in your lives to come and talk to you about your money. Not even the money you have at NSSF, but about the money you have. My name is Mboa Apollo, and as usual, I am the headmaster of this school of money. And for the next hours, as I always dictate and tell my panelists to refer to me as with a sir before the headmaster and a sir after. So it is sir headmaster, sir, when you are referring to the headmaster of the school of money. Today we are going to talk about family and family and money. Your retirement benefits are coming to you, whether you are in the public service or in the private service, whether you are saving with NSSF or you are working privately. There is that time that you are going to get that last check. And that last check is going to come to you as a member of a family. You have a family behind you. You could be the wife in the family. You could be the husband in the family. But you could be the child in that family. How do you relate to your family when these benefits come to you? Today we are going to have that discussion, and we have our experts. Allow me to say, the people with experience that will talk to you about that. Mine is to introduce, and if Shadrach is kind enough to share our slides. I always want to remind you that we do this for 3 reasons. 1, we want you as members, as people of the nation in Uganda, to have options. What are the options you can have while you are working, that these options will speak to your retirement? Number 2, we want to have an empowered, financially empowered membership and national citizenry. As NSSF, we would want to speak to our members, we would want to speak to the people, to the citizens of Uganda when they are financially empowered, when we can actually discuss the figures, about the facts about their money, about their economy, when we are discussing it in knowledge. And number 3, we want to reverse a trend that people get their last check and lose it. They get their last money, and in 3 years, in 2 years, in 3 months, they don't have anything to show for it. So that's why we do this, and that's why we continue doing this. We do this on various forums. We do this, we come to you, we come to your workplaces, speak about this. Our people are all over the branches. We come to different town halls. We are happy to come to your phone on SMS to just remind you that money comes to you, but money will obey you if you only understand how to master it. So we do this, and today we are doing it over a webinar. And this webinar is going to talk about money and family. Allow me to just have these few notes, then I can leave it to the experts. This has been the year has gone. The half of the year is finally here. One half down. For a few of us who work for these parastatals, we are saying that goodbye to the financial year, beginning a new financial year next week. Where does that put you? You had your resolutions at the beginning of the year. It's now 6 months into the year. What have you done about it? I want to challenge you around this half year. It's a time when you reflect. What are those things you had you had motivation to do at the beginning of the year, but you have actually not moved, or even moved backwards away from them? Because we say at NSSF here, the NSSF Financial Literacy Program, we say growing old is mandatory. From the time the year began, you have grown old by 6 months. Mandatory. You didn't have to do anything. All you did was wake up and you were old. Now you are 6 months older than when we last talked at the beginning of the year. You didn't have to do anything. But growing up is optional. Ladies and gentlemen, I always emphasize this, that growing up is optional. You can be growing old but not failing to grow up. Excuse me. You may be growing old but failing to grow up. When you retire into poverty, you shall say you grew old but you didn't grow up. Ladies and gentlemen, when your family, and allow me to quote this, it is not your problem that you came from a poor family, but it is entirely your problem when a poor family comes from you. You have not grown up. You just grew old. So today we are going to have that discussion. And if Shadrach is kind enough to go to the next slide so that I want you to identify your benefits are going to define your family. As a family, you are going to, there are three traits of family. There's a family that we can define as broilers. These benefits, when you receive them, they are those people who are warming up for them, just like a broiler warms up for food. And when they come, the broiler will keep eating. When you give a broiler food, it will just keep eating. Don't ask how, it won't start saving this food. It will just keep eating until it is done. There is a type of a family that is going to come up when you receive your benefits. And for them, all they will do is just keep eating that money until it is done. They will finish whatever you put in front of them. They themselves think they are the investment. So because you have saved money at NSSF and you have received it, they will think you have to invest in them. That is the broiler family. There is another one we call the headless chicken. If Shadrach is kind enough to go to that next slide. The headless chicken, they are going to be everywhere, all around you. These are relatives you even never knew you had. All of a sudden, you are uncle to someone. All of a sudden, you are daddy. You are my father's friend, so you are my father. They are coming to you from all spaces. They have deals from all the different other relatives they have seen. This one is doing charcoal. This one is doing this. This one. They are telling you all the different things. They know everything, or they seem to know everything. Wherever you want to invest, they know someone. This headless chicken family will suggest the globe of investments to you. They will come to you and tell you this one works, and they will be around you as long as you have your benefits. As long as that company is there, they are going to always be around you until it is done. They are in a hurry. They will always bring you a deal, and they're saying, if you don't move now, this one we are going to lose it. And they will even seem sincere. They will even say, this one, I'm doing this because you are my relative. I wouldn't do it for anyone else. There is that family that is going to come up with a headless chicken family. There is another family which we call the cock family. Allow me to just go to that last one, then I leave you to the expert. The cock family. Now, these ones are people with plans. They are people in your family, in your extended family. And ladies and gentlemen, as I speak of family, I'll just break it down a little for you later on. But it includes, family are your relatives. The family that comes out of you are still your relatives. Your spouse is your family. Their family is your family. So your children are your family. So you need to understand family in this whole context and start categorizing which family you're going to relate with and relate to when your benefits come. But in that whole context, there are people who are quiet, and they always have a plan. They have done things, and you aspire to have those things. They do not brag. When they are not the ones that are giving the biggest amount on weddings, for clan weddings or funerals, but they always have consistency. Those people are cocks in the families. They are actors with a growth mindset. They will not ask you how much when you tell them you are getting your benefit. The headless chicken family and the broiler family, you don't even have to tell them you are getting your benefit. They know you are getting your benefit. These people, you are the ones to go to tell them that I'm getting benefits. They won't ask you how much are you getting. They will ask you, what's the plan? Before they ask you how much, they will ask you, what's the plan? These people keep a low profile, and you might confuse their low profile with disinterest in life, but actually they are observant. They are observing. They are under no hurry. Because let me tell you, the deal will always be there. So ladies and gentlemen, identify what your family is. With these benefits, which family are you relating to? Shadrach is not a nice person, he has removed our slides. But with this family, who are you relating with? At NSSF here we say, and if I could go, kindly if you could give me that last slide, thank you. Your benefits will locate your long-lost relatives. They will locate your long-lost family. There are people you have not seen in the last 20 years, and because you have clocked 55 and you're picking NSSF, all of a sudden they are with you every weekend. For a minute, even an estranged spouse will start behaving during your eligibility period, because they know you are getting money. That man who left you 10 years ago will start coming home with milk. They will behave. Your children will start having sleepovers at your home. They left you when they were 23. Now they are coming, they are 40. They know you are getting some money. They even want to stay around just to keep you company. The prospect of your benefits may change your views on your family. You might have had a very good family, but because you are getting money, all of a sudden, Shadrach, if you are kind enough for those slides, all of a sudden, you will start thinking about them differently. Your benefits will give you a new bump in your walk. Because you are receiving money, you will be walking differently. All of a sudden, you might not be that person that we have been relating with. Ladies and gentlemen, but it's not my place to discuss this. For me, at NSSF here, and from everyone that listens to us, I always tell them and ask them one thing only. In all this that we are going to do, first we are going to do that talking. The panel is going to do a lot of talking, share a lot of discussion, and they're going to share so many experiences. You have only one thing to do out of everything that we are going to say. Yours is to act. Because at NSSF we believe action changes things. So allow me to hand over to Faith. Faith Chimuli is our moderator for the day. She is the boss of this panel. And as it is mandatory, I would ask her to first refer to me as what I'm referred to. Please first say who I am. First say it, please.
Headmaster.
Sir. Sir before
the.
Yes. So say it again.
Headmaster.
Sir Headmaster. Sir, please say it again.
Sir Headmaster, sir.
Yes, she's a good student. Faith is going to be our moderator, and today we have an amazing panel of gentlemen who are going to discuss family. They are family men. They have dealt with money before, and that is enough experience for us to have them on this panel. Faith, the people out there are waiting to hear what is it about these benefits and money and our family. What has it got to do with our family? The money is my money. Why am I bringing in the family? But guide the discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Apollo. I wonder where we place the ones that count down our ages to retirement. I didn't hear that category. Thank you very much, Apollo, for that. But I like the topic, family and retirement package, and the way it comes out. Family first, and then retirement package. At times we tend to run with the retirement and forget the aspects of the family. When I was doing a bit of reading, when Apollo shared the topic, I was... Sir Headmaster, sir, he has reminded me. When he shared the topic, I was like, what would we talk about when it comes to family and retirement? What are the aspects that you point out so that you guide the people listening in and the ones that are watching? What would be your main focus so that you don't derail so far outside the ambit? There were 3 quotes that I liked before we get into the introductions. There was one by Frank Wright. The longer I live, the more beautiful life becomes. And you realize most people fear living longer because they're uncertain of what to expect. How will they survive? How will they move on? How will they live without the daily routine? And yet the longer you live, the more beautiful life becomes. There was another by M.K. Soni who said, retire from work, but not life. And I can clearly see from one of our guests and our panelists today that indeed you retire from work, but not life, because he looks the ambience of life itself. You can't tell that he's actually retired. So I relate to M.K. Soni. The last was, don't simply retire from something. Have something to retire to. So we hope in our deliberations and as we talk, we guide everyone listening in that, as Harry Emerson said, that don't simply retire from something, but have something to retire to. I now get to our panelists. The retired Assistant Inspector General Police.
Yes, please.
We are humbled to have you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, you. When I was reading this this quote by M.K. Soni, I thought about you because you're so active on Twitter.
Yes.
Yes, I follow, but I've seen that you're actually alive to the aspects of, you're always informed on
Yes.
whatever is happening
Yes.
internationally and even nationally.
Yes.
So it's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much for
Yes.
having me here.
Great. We look forward to the engagement
All right.
and the experience and the sharing.
All right.
Please let us know about yourself, just a brief, so that the listeners can know.
Okay.
Yes.
I am Assistant Inspector General of Police, retired, Hassan Kasinje. I retired 2 years ago in the Uganda Police Force. My office was Chief Political Commissar. Right now, I am the Managing Director of Tayari Security Company Limited, a private security firm. But I also do consultancies, and I'm also a farmer. And I am I'm married. I have a family, 5 children. I'm married to one wife. She's a woman.
That is very important. Yes.
Yes. So briefly, that's me.
Great.
Yes.
Great. Tony, over to you.
Thank you so much, Faith, for having me here. My name is Tony Mugisha. I'm a financial advisor. I think before even being a financial advisor, I'm first and foremost a husband. I'm a father of 4 amazing kids, 3 girls and 1 boy, the eldest being 16 and the youngest being 8. I am a financial advisor. I'm married to one, Shelleen Mugisha. I think that should have come earlier.
Yes.
Okay, and well, I run my own enterprise, which is Aton Capital. We advise close to 220 family offices across 8 markets with about 34 nationalities. And we do broad scope depending on the client. So it's an honor to be here and looking forward to sharing today.
Oh, great. We're glad to have you. I learned something from your brief bio. I never talk about my family, and yet I'm so passionate about it in my bio. I think I restrict it to the work I do and the qualifications. But when I was reading Tony's bio, he mentioned the fact that I'm a husband, and the children also mentioned. So I think I learned something from that, and I know we're in the right place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Family is really passionate. For me, I think in my way of things, it's God, family, and then the rest follow. So when you're passionate about family, there's a way you're orderly, even the way you do your things. Your priorities are quite so different. So as we delve into the discussion today, I remember last year I attended a conference with, there was a women entrepreneurship conference. So I was asking myself, what am I doing here? Yet I'm a lawyer. And then the guest speaker came in. It was the former Secretary General of FIFA. Is it Fatma Samora? Comes in. And we're all excited, you know. She was like, yes. And she hadn't yet announced the news that she was going to retire yet. So she, as we're engaging her, she said, you know what? This life is really good when you're working. I've been to all the different countries. All of them. I don't spend 3 days in one country. So I've been everywhere. But I need to go home. I need to go home and rest. And here we are, young entrepreneurs were like, but why is she resting now? She's still vibrant. She was so passionate about it. We are waiting for her to continue to do amazing things. She said, it's time for me to go home and retire. So most of us, of course, there was silence in the room because everyone was wondering, why would you retire? Now when you feel you've reached that level, you know, you have everything. Why don't you continue to work a little bit more? So that she said, no, I've missed my family. My children are above 35 years. They even have grandchildren. I tend to forget their names because I'm not there. So there was a bit of silence in that whole room. And everyone was wondering that time will surely come when you must retire and let go. So as we go into our theme today, how are we going to manage family dynamics before retirement? What do we need to do? How can we guide our listeners? You know, when it comes to retirement, people, like that conference hall, everyone kept quiet because you fear the unknown. How are you going to get into that space? How do you thrive in that space? And yet it will come to pass. But how do you prepare yourself so that when that time actually comes, you're ready for retirement? And your family is also ready for retirement. So I'll ask retired AIGP, Asen, how to guide us, because the first thing is communicating. How do you communicate your expectations and boundaries to your loved ones during this process? One, how do you have an open discussion with family members about retirement plans? Because some people fear to have that discussion when they hear things about money, then everyone wants to play safe. How can we communicate and the strategies?
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And once again, I'm glad to be here. Let me start from the fact that most of the people who join service, or most of the people who join work, join when they don't have families. That's granted because most of the people who start at those low echelons or whatever entry you have, mid management, most of them are young because they want young people. So about 80%, 85, more than 85% of the people that are employed are or were people who didn't have families. And you do remember during our time when we left Makerere, that is when public service would recruit us. So they would recruit mainly about 90% university graduates, people who were not married. That's number one. Number two, when you begin to work, one of the first priorities that you think about is starting a family. Okay? So we all start families when we are already in work. My own experience is that my children had never seen me when I'm not in uniform. When I'm home, what I mean is that all their time, until 2 years ago, they all knew me as a police officer. Everything was about police. When I'm not there, they know I've gone for police work. And my firstborn, she's a young lawyer. She's about 30, 31, 32 there. She even got married when I was still in the police. So you get born in a family and you get married, you get your own children when your parent is still in the police. So it becomes part and parcel of that family, of who you are. Now, time comes when you're supposed to retire, when you're going to retire. For me, it was a little bit easier because when you attain the rank of Assistant Inspector General of Police, or even Deputy Inspector General of Police, and Inspector General of Police, it means now you have to serve on contract. That's how it is in the police. So immediately I became Assistant Inspector General of Police, I had to sign a contract of 3 years, which later became 2 years. So after 2 years, you know that your contract is is expiring.
It's expiring.
And if it is renewed, then you continue. So since 2009, but I want to tell listeners that even when that happened, I never communicated to my family. So it was like, no, I will come back again and work. I will come back again and work. But you reach a point where you begin now to prepare yourself, to plan for retirement, but also to prepare the family. So what I did was, like, I used to give, some kind of hunches, some kind of, tell them
hints.
that, I'm about to retire, or time is going to come when I'm about to retire. Then I began to do certain things, like now having a land for retirement, building a retirement home. They see you now, you buy a car, you put it there, they know that, daddy didn't, have an extra car. All the time he was in the official car. So there is going to be communication that is direct, that is verbal, ocular. You sit with your family and you tell them. But there is also going to be a communication that people see the kind of things that you're doing, which are not verbal. So for me, that is important. I remember having a family meeting, and we sat and then I told them, I'm about to retire. I was left with 1 year. I said, I'm about to retire, but we need to do something. Maybe later on I'll talk about that. We need to do something. That was, by the way, a wrong decision at that time. But I told them we need to do something, and all of us are going to be involved in this venture that we are going to start. So I told them I need to have a soft landing, but by the time I come, then each one of you must know exactly what we're doing. And then we started a hardware shop somewhere in Bulindo. Okay, so everybody was going there, was doing something. That alone showed them that yes, time has come. However, I can tell you that with families, when the time came and there was apprehension, there was, now what is he going to do? There was like, they leave me at home and I remain at home, then they come and find me at home. It was very awkward because I was the first one out, and then I was the last one in, and then I seem not to be going anywhere. I seem to be at home, and that bothered them so much. And so much as you communicate to them, the most important thing is you must start early. Everybody must know that what has an entry has an exit. And what we forget when we are in those offices, especially civil servants, we don't prepare, we don't do things that are going to make the family robust, keep together, and it is a problem. The last point on that, when you're communicating, ask yourself a question. Are you communicating to a unit, a family that is united, or you are communicating to a family that disintegrated long time ago under your stewardship? You're now retiring, and everybody, if you didn't keep that family as a unit, so people are going to say, okay, he was using his office to do whatever he wanted to do. He had another woman somewhere. He would go and come back after 1 week. We didn't know what he was doing. Wherever you were traveling, your wife she's sure that you must be having somebody else there. And now time comes when you're retiring, and then they are like, oh, thank God he's now come. Let him be there. So yes, let him be there. And now I can monitor him. There are not going to be children brought in the home. We can have his attention. We can have that. And I'm telling you, things will go from worse to worse, the very, very worst situation. So my point here is, whatever you're going to tell that family, are you talking to a united family? You're talking to a family that is happy that you're retiring, and happy in the negative sense. That is what I mean. So to me, I think those are the most important issues that we need to contend with at this point in time.
Thank you very much. The main point was plan early, plan with a unit, other than communicating, and yet the recipients are not standing together with you.
Yes.
Yes.
For example,
Yes.
how are you going to, at this material time, to start telling them, by the way, I have a house in Kawempe. You've never told anybody
Yeah.
that while you were working, you have some housing unit in Kawempe where you are getting some money. You are communicating it now. Or you just tell them that, oh, look here, by the way, I have some farm somewhere in Nakaseke. And so most of the time I will be going to that farm. Now, instead of people supporting you within the farm, they take most of the time trying to investigate what kind of farm, where is it, who's been
How
running
much has
it,
it been?
is there another woman, you know,
Yeah.
you
Yes,
know,
that's true.
that kind of thing. So I don't think the family is going to come in to be able to say, okay, Dad, you can do this, we are going to do this. Yeah, you know, let's see how we can take over. You spend a lot of time when people are trying to find exactly what is all this is about. So that's why planning for retirement must come earlier, and then you must involve the family at all times.
From the start.
Yes.
Yes, transparency is very key so that you can move together. Tony, you've had yes, you've had
Yes.
his thoughts about that. Could you guide us, because your experiences in life experiences and finances, what is the best time? Like you had retired AIGP said,
Yes.
that for him, he told them ayato. You know, most of us wait when you know you've received that letter that we're not going to renew, because you're always comfortable that, you know what, I'm here to stay. And yet there is always an entry and an exit, like how we've been guided. So what is the favorable time? Should it be when I turn 40? Should it be when I am 35? I have 20 years to go. When do I start to plan?
Thank you so much, Faith. You see, retirement is a very interesting thing. And I mean, we've been privileged to work with lots of families in different aspects, and retirement is one of the things we actually discuss. But you know, the question is, when's the best time for me? When should I start to plan for retirement? You know, when I speak to people who are, say, 25, you know, they tell me, you know, Tony, will probably plan about our retirement when we are in our mid-40s. And when I talk to the people who are in the mid-40s, you know, they tell me, no, I think let's get to 60. You know, let's get to 60 and think about it. When I speak to the people who are in 60 and going to a larger bracket, they actually tell me, I wish I started on my first job. So the question is, when's the best time for you to start planning for retirement? I think the best time for planning for retirement is the day you start to work. And I'll share with you, I know, unlike AIGP Hassan retired, mine has been in the corporate space. I worked in the corporate space for about 16 years. And my turning point was, so we were in an annual retreat, just like, you know, many corporate companies actually, you go as group teams. Yes. That time I think I was on the Africa team. And we have the normal retreat, it was in Marrakesh. And about the last days, we had an icon in that group company. I won't be able to share, but if you actually do follow me, you should be able to see my former employer, which is Shell.
Yeah.
And this person, who's a very great icon, and I actually noticed, I later got to find out, they actually had to change the years to extend his retirement. That's how an asset, that's how much the company valued them. So we got an opportunity, and they had a program for rising leaders. And we got an opportunity to engage a day before we left. And he was actually mentoring me among other, I think, 4 Africans. And we had a campfire conversation. And out of that discussion, out of the blue, I asked him, you know, I hear you're actually going to retire. What's the plan? And you see, he kept quiet for about 3 minutes. I said, did I ask a wrong question? And at some point I felt maybe I had offended him. And right after that, he told me, no, I'm going to retire. Money is not the problem. I've served my entire, I think by then he had worked for about 40-something years for the organization. But I don't know what to do next. So his biggest fear was, I don't know what to do next. Now, look at a person like me who has actually been able to rise up in the different ranks. It's a person I'm looking to, and he's telling me he doesn't know exactly what he's going to do. And I remember asking him that, okay, fine, if you had an opportunity right now, because believe me, Faith was really good at what he does. And he told me, listen, if I had an opportunity to do all over again, I'd probably choose to do what I want. So I tell him, what do you think? What are you talking about what you want? I mean, you're a trailblazer in this company, you're doing fantastic stuff. He told me, this is my job, but it's not what I want to do. And for me, I think that became, because it's a person I was looking up to, and actually he was mentoring me in terms of mentorship. And after that conversation, I started asking myself that question: what exactly do I want to do? Do I want to keep trotting the way I'm trotting? Do I want to keep missing my kids' special days? Because at that time, career was what's on my mind. And around that time, I started making up my mind. I said, listen, as Tony, what do I want to do? Which probably went on for a couple of years after that engagement. He later went on to retire. Today, we are still in touch. I think it's about 81 right now. But it gave me clarity for myself. And I was able to say, okay, fine, there is a job, and there's what I want to do as a person. And believe me or not, that was a different journey for me to start. After that, I think about 3 years from that time, I went on to start my own company. Now I was pursuing on exactly what do I want to do. There's my job, and there's what I feel I want to do. What's that I want to do for the rest of my life? And after 3 years, when management changed, and that's because you see, retirement, there are two types of retirement. There's forced retirement, and there's retirement you choose for yourself.
Yes, the voluntary.
And very many times you don't get to choose which one. But at least in your lifetime, as you work, you should actually have the option of choosing for yourself the retirement. So what happened is when there was change of management and the new head of the business then, at that time I'd started my business because I had a conversation with my wife. After that entire process, I actually had a conversation with my wife and my experiences in terms of what the discussion with that gentleman was and what it should be for me. And I remember when that new head of business came in, I had started my business because my employer actually gave us an opportunity to, as long as you started your business, it doesn't conflict with the existing business. As long as you registered it, you can actually be able to operate, provided you're not within the working hours. When the new business head came in, and at that time my business I started taking off, and I'd come up for talk shows, I'd be called for different engagements because now I'd found my passion. And he asked my line manager, is Tony working for us or he's doing his? So I actually called me in for a meeting and I had a conversation with him and told him, right now I need all hands on deck. And by that time, I was pretty much on plan on pretty much everything. But because I was doing something that I really like, so I told him, what are the options for me? He told me, listen, you either continue working for our business or you focus on your own business and you need to make a decision right now. And I remember telling him, no, I cannot make a decision right now. I run this business with my wife. I probably need to go back and make a decision. The next day, of course, I made up my mind and I said, listen, I'm going to actually exit, which probably gave me about 6 months. But the whole conversation of then how do you exit? Because remember right now, it changes the entire plan. This is something that was not part of the plan. So it changes the whole conversation. Fine, you want to leave, but what next? What is it for us? Like the other panelists shared is, then I had a company car. What happens to our medical insurance? And what happens for very many other things? So I had literally come up with a plan. So when you talk about retirement, that itself is retirement in its way.
Yes.
All right?
Yes.
So later on, right now, I think it's the best decision I ever took, having worked out. But each and every one of us is different. Just like when you talk about families, we are all totally different. We have totally different backgrounds. I come from a background where retirement is not even a conversation because literally someone has to work all the way.
Till the end.
But it doesn't have to be for me because now that I know what I know, what options do I have for myself? So when you talk about retirement, retirement is a broad aspect. And when you add the component of family, it's also a bit broad. But like we'll probably go into further to discuss different things, we'll be able to exploit more about that subject.
Thank you very much, Tony. I think every individual has that time. Should we call it a spark? Or when you get that moment that you need to think about retirement? It can't be that it's at 40 years, or it can't be it's at 35 years. But what I've realized, most of us continue to be comfortable because you have all the benefits of working, and you don't think that it will ever come to an end. I managed to work in my old career, a gentleman I respected as well. So he was a very professional judicial officer, very professional. God rest his soul in peace. But then it came to 70 years and he had to go. So he called us in a meeting because most of his time, like retired AIGP said, he was in office. So his family was office. So he called us into a room and said, I'm going to retire, but now I don't know what to do. I've been office, home, office, home. So me and the secretary were wondering, where do we come into this conversation and how do we support him? So then I think I'd listened in when I was at UCU. I told him, I think you need to sit down and see what is going to keep you busy. Since you've been busy all the time, you've been writing judgments, but it was a shock to him at that age. So he was wondering, what do I do about the vehicle? They need to take their vehicle. They need to give me, those small things that you take for granted. What do I do for security? How am I going to move? Because he had not planned. For him, he had worked for all his life and he was quite comfortable. So how can we guide our listeners in aspects of dealing with adult children? Now, why our boss did that is because he considered us as his children. His other kids were grown up and he had not spent a lot of time. So I think he thought that, let me ask these young ones, since I've been with them, how do you set the boundaries for adult children and family members when you're going to retire? What is their limit? Like AIGP said, retired AIGP said, that they were wondering, is he going to stay at home? How do we support him? Should we take him to the hardware? And at times, these adult children want to plan for you because they think now he doesn't know, he or she doesn't know, they are stuck. We need to plan for them. How can we set the boundaries with our adult children and tell them that, you know what, I'm okay. I'm going to do this. I will move on. Okay.
I think once again, I would like to stress the fact that we should, and he has said it,
Yes.
that we should plan for retirement from the day you put pen to the dotted lines.
Yeah.
When you sign for that job, when you accept that job that was given to you, then you should start planning for retirement. You should start saving your money. You should invest your money in viable ventures that are going to bring in money to support you and the family, but also ventures that are going to grow with you over time. Every time you become more intelligent, So, and then when you acquire that family, the family must be part of what you're building, must be part of that. Yes, there are people who have their parents rich people, but they don't know what they have. They don't know how rich they are. They don't know, even if they have enterprises, there are people who are running enterprises, but they don't know their dad, what he does within that enterprise. All they know is that there's this factory in Kawempe, there is this in Chadwajara or something like that. So they are detached. They become detached, and sometimes disillusioned. And if you're going to have a family that don't feel part of what you've built over time, I can tell you is that their main preoccupation will be when he goes, then we shall decide on what to do. Okay?
Yes.
And I think that is something that is dangerous for us to do. So for me, when you have adult children, you've retired, how do you involve them in your activities? You must have started it quite before. Now that you're retiring, it is just a matter of, we call it soft landing. It is not that things are going to change, but what is going to change is that now you need to concentrate, play a supervisory role, and be able to to see what you've not been seeing because you've been busy. But there are guys and your family that know this. Your family may be having something else that they are doing. They don't necessarily to be working for the company or working for you, but at least they know what is happening. I've been seeing families where, and also I told you I had to call my family and we went on the drawing board. When I was in the service, I had businesses. I had transport business that was going on. But that transport business, even my wife didn't know what was happening. It is me who knew exactly what was happening in that transport business. Okay? But now, as I have said, we began to plan for a family home, and I saw that I needed to involve everybody. After setting up a retirement home, which is very important when we're talking about retirement and the family. What family are you talking about if you're still, renting somewhere? You've retired, your family doesn't know exactly where they are going to do, or maybe you're in a company house. You've retired, you're in a company house. They are going to throw you out. There are people who are saying, Mose, you should leave, and we want to enter into this house. So for me, we went and had a retirement home, a small farm, and we began to do agriculture. On my X handle, I keep on putting there what we do. Whether it is tomatoes, young people abuse me and say, Mr. Tomato Man, I don't care. As long as they see trucks and trucks of tomatoes being taken away from the farm. And I can tell you, it is my wife who is involved in this. By the way, she doesn't want to leave our retirement home. I have to persuade her. I have even to send her transport and say, jump into a bus, come. We have a wedding somewhere to attend. Otherwise, you're disturbing me. You're wasting a lot of my time. I'm supposed to be buying this pump. I'm supposed to be doing this. Now, do you see how then you involve your family? It should be a natural, a natural process. Recently, last week, I heard there's a court case. I'm not going to talk about names or whatever, but I read where this retired old man, I think he's in his early 90s, he had farms, square miles of farms. He didn't know that his 3 children had taken away land titles and had changed the land titles to their names. So they were selling property one by one. To the extent now when he realized he only had the house where they were staying in. The young people had already sold the properties. Your question is very, very important. That if you didn't involve them, probably at the time they are selling the properties, they are saying, but Dad, why is he still alive? He should have gone a long time ago. This man is
sitting on.
Sitting on us. So my colleagues who have retired or who are still in office, I want to concentrate on those who are still in office. We need now to start planning with our families. Please, I am from a huge family called the police, and I know what goes in there. I was their chief political commissar, a person who even goes to the barracks and see what is going on in the barracks, a person who also receives complaints from spouses. My husband has never done this. You are sitting on a latent problem. There is a bomb that is going to burst. Whatever you are going to have, whatever you're working for, is not going to benefit even you as a person, if you didn't plan with your family. And I think the time, whoever is listening to us, the time is now. You need the family. Let me tell you, that time when I was staying at home doing nothing, I normally give this testimony to so many people I talk to. And I tell people that when you retire, you need you need a cash flow. You need some money. And you see, sometimes these benefits from NSSF, they take some little time. Now I hear you have gone to 8 days. But there used to be 40 days when you have not received the money. Or sometimes you receive the money and you want to see what you should do. So you somehow keep the money. So you don't have the money that you used to have to buy bread, to buy milk, to buy food, and that kind of thing. That is when you will know whether you and your spouse were actually moving in the one direction. My wife used to leave me money at home because she would come late. Now I'm at home. So that I can buy milk, I can buy bread, I can buy the few things that I used to buy. Not that I was broke, no, I was waiting to do something that is important. Okay? Now, from that point in time, then you begin to understand that I invested in my family. I invested in the cohesion of my family. COVID-19 showed us something. When we were all locked up there, some of those houses became so small for people to stay in. And we all know that COVID time was something like 1 year, 2 years, or something like that. That place was a hell for people. How about the rest of your life when you have retired? Okay?
Yes.
We all retire so that we can have more interesting. You yourself read for us the 3 quotations.
Yes.
That the best time now is the time during our years.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay? You want a stress-free life. You want a life where you don't have diseases that are disturbing you. Okay? You want to have, family around you. I tell my daughter when the small children have not come at home, but then she's in trouble. If she doesn't bring these small children, they even find me in the office. Because they study around where I work. So when the driver comes to pick them, I said, Dad will be in trouble. I will be in trouble with Daddy. Let them pass there and greet him and go. You see what the family means?
Yes.
It means at that point in time, like my age, I want to have my family around me. This is not the time when the people are running away from you. And how do they come towards you? Because you planned, because they see something that they should be proud of. But I'm telling you, if it is not there, then you are not going to see anyone.
That's very true. That has brought it home. Thank you so much for that. You've heard, Tony, that you need to plan with the family. You need to stand together with the family, have cohesion. And COVID really taught us some lessons about building bridges, for us to thrive. You realize we had to be in the same space as families, work together, inform them of everything. You would not make a phone call outside the house. You need to make the phone call inside the house. So it's critical for transparency.
Sometimes under the bed.
And that's very true.
Yeah.
It's very critical for transparency.
Yes.
And I think our listeners need to know the fact that if you don't involve your family, like how retired AIGP has said it, then you're crumbling your own family,
I agree.
You sit and go with all that wealth and people, because we've seen it, even in our ambits, in our career lives. A widow comes and does not know anything. I remember when our friend passed on, our colleague we went to school with, someone just came to the widow's house and said, give me these land titles. They are located here and here. And yet they were in her house, but she didn't know where they were. And these were her husband's titles. So innocently, she also just got up, you're grieving, hand over the titles. It's after 4 days that she realizes that, what, I gave away my husband's properties and he had not told me anything. So she had to start working backwards, And I remember what a funeral service, what really hurt us most was this innocent widow kneeling down. Our friend was in a corporate entity, earning big, comfortable and happy. But she was right there kneeling down for a job because she had been left with nothing. She had no titles of her home. They had not engaged. So we need to work with our families. We need to invest with our families. Like retired AIGP has also mentioned the fact that his wife took on the farming, which was there before. So could you guide our listeners? What other ventures can they go? Where can they invest? When do they start? What are the ambits of investments? So that when that time comes, their families are together with them, and also there's continuity even during retirement.
Okay. Thank you so much, Faith. Like our retired AIGP has said, the thing with when we talk about a plan, plan is a big word. Okay, majority of the people probably have their plans in their head. in my space, when we're actually doing what we call a financial plan, we talk about 7 spheres, okay? The first sphere is family, and it's what really we've been able to, to indulge in right now. By the way, if you involve your kids at an old stage, it's already too late. It's too late because, and from my space, I've been able to work with families, and I mean, the children are not interested at all because they were never involved. They want to do their own things. Maybe they have thriving careers, but when you actually go to the bottom of this, they were never involved at an early stage. So, and I'm going to be able to run through that as well. So we look at 7 spheres in terms of financial planning. And I'm speaking mainly to the corporate space because that's where I know most people think that's where people have it figured out, but majority don't have it figured it out. Because what happens is we do not have those plans. Just like your colleague you talked about, we have our plans in our head. It's only us who know how certain things should happen. That's why almost 95% of families do not know what to do next when the breadwinner is not there. It doesn't matter about how much wealth you have. It doesn't matter how much educated you are. Even the professionals you've been able to see, name it doctors, lawyers, whatever the profession space. We leave our families at ransom, yet we've worked so hard for them, and we leave them to chance. Now, if you want to do it correctly, and we talk about a plan, which is a financial plan, there are 7 spheres. First is family. Why family? Because family, every single person I know that has been working, majority of the time they are working for their families. And they are working, by the way, at some point in time to be able to own something on their own. The second thing is education. And education, I like to share that education starts the day you leave school. That's when you start education. Right now, like our listeners right now are learning something. You invest in yourself, your place of work. That's so important, but not only for yourself, but also for the family members. Health. Health is so important, and AIGB can actually share with you that health is so important for you, especially in that space of retirement. And I'll probably come back to that as well. But when we talk about health, we talk about 2 spaces. That's mental health and physical health.
Yes.
All right? Then we come to the 4th, which is finance. Finance, that's where we tend to put all our focus. That's where you have the properties, the equities, the bonds, the commodities, That's where we tend to focus so much. But just like all the other 6 spheres, just as finance is so important, all the other 6 spheres are also as important as finance. After finance, then you have what we call community, because we're all part of a community, either where we come from or where we work or where we probably go to our place of worship. It's very, very important. Okay? Then we have So we've talked about family, we've talked about education, we've talked about health, we've talked about finance, we've talked about community, we've talked about spirituality. And spirituality is very important, irrespective of your spirituality. How do you want it to impact, like Assistant AIGP is talking about, how do you want your spirituality to be impacted to your next generation? Is it even important for you? Can they choose whatever they want to choose? Okay, so each and every one of those aspects is as deep as finance. Now, having known that, that's what we call a whole person concept. And each and every family is unique. We are totally unique in our circumstances. There are families that you probably, that are polygamous. Those require totally different planning. There are those that probably don't even have children, because we've been privileged also to work with families that have not been blessed with children. But they still have family. They have spouses, and they have the broader space, nephews, nieces, name it. So each and every one of us is unique. But one thing that is very important is all the 7 spheres, if you're doing a plan, have to be incorporated. Otherwise, you'll find yourself focusing on one space, which is financial. Now, to bring it back home in terms of retirement, like AIGP has talked about, what is very important, in wealth creation, there are 3 stages. There's the creation, there's the protection, there's wealth protection, and there's wealth preservation. They all require different strategies. The way you'd plan for a 35 or 40-year-old is different from the way you plan for a 50-year-old that probably has had no plan at all. it's probably even different the way you plan for a 60-year-old, because there are also many who have actually come and have gotten their benefits. I mean, NSSF is doing their mandate, but once people have gotten their money, then whatever they do there, you don't have control. And I'm glad that why you invite us here to share different perspectives. Yes. In your journey of life, it's just like when you're given birth to. When you're born, there's nothing you can do about time. Time is moving. You can't stop time. You can't do anything about time. Headmaster Sir talked about today people are 6 months older than they were at the beginning of this year. There's nothing you can do about time. Just same thing about life. You're born and then you age. And a time will come, in financial planning we like to use the year 80, because anything after 80 is a bonus, it's a plus. But as you move through the different cycles of life, there are different priorities. There are totally different priorities. But just to focus on retirement planning, you'll find that there's a stage for asset accumulation, which probably you will need. And by the way, retirement today is changing. I'm getting very many families or estates planning retirement for even members way earlier than the usual age of 55. Today people want to retire earlier. Why? Because we are living in a hybrid period where people are doing things they should have done in their retirement. That itself as well is a problem. But I'll probably discuss it later. But what's very important for you is you need to understand that there's asset accumulation and then there is income accumulation. They are two different strategies. What you use in asset accumulation is different from what you use in income accumulation. And what you need in retirement is income accumulation. And that's why most times when I see people getting their NSSF and starting a new initiative, all from a green field, I get to ask why. And you know the problem, Faith, is when we have a tooth that hurts us, we'll look for a dentist. But when we talk about things that are so dear to us, I mean, for God's sake, we work for 30 days to get a paycheck. But when we get that paycheck, we want to use hearsay or on a Twitter forum to be able to make a decision on something like that. Or even using our NSSF, something we've worked for many years, and deploy it using our own or maybe a spouse's expertise. Yet there are very many experts that we have in this market that will guide you. I know NSSF is also doing a great job, but there are very many people out there that are able to give you. But your strategy should be that as you go into retirement, it should actually be income accumulation. And when I talk about it will be income accumulation. And when we talk about the different asset classes, because there are only 5 asset classes anywhere you go in the world. There's property, which we all know. For the longest has been the greatest asset class. It hedges you against inflation. But is property bad? Yes. No one ever talks about the bad side of property. There are markets where property depreciates. I've been able to be in markets where property has depreciated. Property has other costs incurred to it. Most property owners never assess what we call occupancy rate throughout the year. For as long as you know you're getting your 10 million shillings, so you won't sit down to do an assessment to know whether my occupancy rate is high. But does it make property bad? No, it's a good asset class. Why I'm sharing this is all the 5 asset classes are equally important. The most important thing is what you choose out in as you're doing asset accumulation is different from what you use when you're doing income accumulation. So when you even go to the bonds are fantastic. They give you a good return, but do they have a downside? If you want to see the downside, see what is happening in Ghana right now. Okay? Could it happen in this market? There's no single economy that's proof for that. But does it make it a bad asset class? No. What I'm trying to show you is each asset class has pros and cons. When you go to commodities is anything to do with farming in Uganda's context. Farming, that's trees, animals, crops. That's under? Bees. That's under farming. Can you have a fantastic season? Absolutely. Can you have a horrible season?
Yes.
Absolutely. When you go to cash, that's why you have different instruments. That's why you have pension. Your pension sits under cash. You have your fixed deposits. You have your unit trust. You have your mutual funds. You have your annuities. Provident fund. You have your life insurance in there. Okay? So there are only 5 asset classes. What's very critical is how you pick them up during these 2 stages, during the asset accumulation stage and during the income accumulation stage.
So at what age, Tony, before you break off, is When do we start asset accumulation? Because we've realized, and when do we start? You have to be a little bit specific.
Yes.
Because you realize most of us come in and claim our benefits.
Yes.
And go and start projects.
Yes.
So at what stage should I start asset accumulation?
Yes.
Is it, as Assistant IGP retired said,
Yes.
that when I start working,
Yes.
immediately I start?
Okay, so, and our market is unique because in this market, people probably start working at about 25 years of age. Other markets, like the developed markets, have an advantage on us because people will start working maybe at about 19 or even much earlier. But since we are talking here, and by the way, here I mean sub-Saharan Africa because we've been privileged to work in all those markets. Now, if you start working out at 25 years of age, you're healthier, you're probably alone, you can live off 50% of your income, all right? You probably haven't gotten a spouse yet. So literally, that time you're able to start, if you get guidance of an advisor, you're able to start making up good decisions. So I want to break down what we call the cycle of life. In our cycle of life, which is 0 to 20, that's the first pyramid, then 20 to 40, then 40 to 60, and 60 to 80. Again, I shared with you, 80 is anything above 80 is a bonus. I mean, look at your relatives who are above 80. It doesn't matter how wealthy you are, you can't, I mean, the food you eat is decided by whoever's taking care of you. You don't have much control, okay?
Yes.
But when you look at that cycle of life, by the way, it's 28,000 days. That cycle of life is 28,000 days. Now, when you look at 0 to 20, in Uganda's perspective, you're not working, correct? So it means you're looking at 20 to 40 and 40 to 60, which is pretty much, if you're looking at a circle, it's probably the lower part.
Yes.
Okay, between 20 to 40, assuming you probably start working at 25,
Yes.
all right? Again, using the element of the 5 asset classes, how do you pick them out in those 2 quarters? Okay, because when you start out to work at, because again, you're probably not earning so much money, correct? You're probably working at 25. So in that space, I'll probably focus on cash options,
Yes.
which I've talked about, because by the way, for you to be able to get that paycheck, get that paycheck, you need to show up to work for 27 years,
Yes.
for 27 days. So if you're showing up for 27 days, it means the most important asset in that context is you. So the question then is, what value have you put on your life? And that's where elements or instruments like life insurance come into that space.
Okay.
Because it's the only way you're able to put value on your life. Okay. Now, as you move down the cycle between 20 to 40, in that time, you're probably alone, maybe a spouse, and maybe 1 kid. You can afford to be aggressive. And by aggressive, I mean, because we all have different risk appetite. The way I look at property is different, maybe from a AIGP retired son. And maybe the way she looks at farming is different from where I look at farming. We all have, and that's why when I'm sharing with most of my clients, I tell them that, when you're picking out assets, it's not about the return. There's more beyond the return that we actually need to look, and that's why you need an expert to guide you on that journey. But to take you back between 20 to 40, you can be aggressive, irrespective of your risk appetite. But around that time as well, because of the way we start working here in this market, you probably, in your last quarters, probably that's when you can start to accumulate what we call fixed assets. Okay, but again, it's not a choice for everyone. There are clients that are not interested in any other fixed assets, but that's their choice. But between that, you can actually be aggressive. But as long as you hit 40, now you're going into the second quarter, right? Because now it's not about you alone. You have a spouse, you have kids actually, right? Now in that space, you need to start being balanced. That's between 40 to 50. You cannot take the same decision you've been taking between 20 and 40. And between 50 and 60, you need to start being conservative. Why conservative? Because at that point in time, you want to make sure that you keep ground of whatever you've been able to gain. The only reason why you see generations start all over again, a great generation comes, someone does something, pushes somewhere, and then they start all over again. It happens. Why? Because they've not been cautious on those different stages and how they pick out different. I've been privileged to work with some high net worth families in different markets, and you'll be able to see that they're very deliberate on how they're actually doing that. Okay, and when you live between 50 to 60, that's you're conservative. But after 60, now you've gone into retirement. You need to become defensive, and that's why your focus there needs to be income accumulation. How do I preserve this and grow it? First, it's not how to grow it. How do I preserve this and grow it. Now, unfortunately, that many people, when they get there, because they don't have professional advice with them or someone to guide them on that journey, when they get there, that's when they want to be aggressive. That's why people get actually your money that you pay them in NSSF and probably go and start all over. Before even they're 30% of the project, all of it is gone. But as you do that, and I want to emphasize this because we're talking about retirement. You know, when we talk about retirement, we talk about things, there's a lot that has been done on savings. And NSSF has done a fantastic job. All right? You've talked about investments. The banks, the people in the financial services have talked great about savings and investments. All right? But let me tell you something, Faith. It's not about that in retirement. There are things they never talk about that I want to share today. When we're doing financial planning, savings and investments, great. I won't go into that because banks, NSSF, you're doing a great job there. There's something called coverage. What's involved in coverage? Coverage are things like you can get critically ill. Today, you don't need any history in your family to be diagnosed with a critical illness. You don't need any history because of our lifestyle. What we eat, what we do. Neither of us is impune in terms of being permanently disabled, whether you drive or walk. I mean, you can be on the farm and you get permanently disabled because probably for an incident that you have no control about. There's something called long-term care. Long-term care is where you lose at least 3 or 4 abilities to help you run day-to-day life. And what are those? Things like taking yourself to the toilet, things like dressing or bathing yourself, you know? That as well, again, as you age, is bound to happen. The elements of death, you gave an example of a colleague, early death, that no one ever plans for. No one ever talks about that. But let me tell you something. Everything I've talked about in coverage, irrespective of whatever you've done in savings and investments, one incident can come and wash out everything. That's why you've seen families go back to scratch. And sometimes the person never heals. That's coverage. But there are also other bottom things that I need to talk about. There are things like tax planning. You know, people say, you know, we don't need to plan for anything to do with tax. Depending on again, like I shared with you, Faith, we've been privileged to work in different markets. Some markets, assets are taxed. I don't know what our law states, but it's an interesting one. Maybe we'll discuss about it later. But how well have we prepared for that? We have other things like trusts or estate planning. Because, I mean, if there's no proper plan in place, I'll give you an example. I mean, many people do not know or have not put in place who should take a decision in terms of a medical emergency happens to you and you're not in the rightful mindset to make a decision. Many people don't know what to do. That's why you find families saying, no, we do this process to them. A friend says this. And you leave, yes, they're in a critical position, but there's no clear guidance on what has to be done. And if the laws are very, very strict, in some markets, you can't do anything unless there's that. That's true. There are other aspects, but our focus has been so much on savings and investments. But when we talk about retirement, we need to look at the coverage. We need to look at these other components as well. And how do they play part
in the story? Thank you very much, Tony. Estate planning, quite sensitive and quite critical because, like we've both have mentioned, that we plan. Yes, we plan with our families, but how do we protect what we are planning for? Retired AIGP, please guide our listeners. How can they protect their estates? Because they finish to plan. They know what to include in these plans. Because like Tony mentioned, from 60, you need to have all these baselines. How has it worked for you? So that maybe we have lessons as well, so that our listeners can be guided.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. Retirement is a journey that you learn every day. Yeah, there are probably some other things I haven't experienced. I normally like telling people about my own experiences. Yeah. But from my own experience, I think one of the most important things as we plan for retirement. Planning for retirement is planning how you're going to survive and live long. You talked about 80 years. Planning for retirement is making sure that I add 1, 2, 3, I go to 90, I go to 100. So it is something that is going to take most of the time. I think in my opening remarks I talked about having something that you have planned for, and you only need to go and do supervisory responsibilities and all that. That means you have set up something that is registered, that is incorporated, that for some, not everybody, I know there are people who may not be able to do that. But one of the things that is going to guarantee protection of what you have, please, we have now a very vibrant URSB.
Automated.
Uganda Registration Services Bureau. You can go and register. And sometimes we fear the taxes, the taxman is going to come. There are many things that we incorporate ourselves in that are not going to attract taxes. Not everything that is registered, okay? And sometimes when you begin, but we shouldn't fear taxes at the same time when we actually are getting returns from the investment. So the rate of return on investment, when you take away tax, that shouldn't be a problem. So number one, my advice, I have registered, like the hardware shop I talked about, we registered it. Okay, the farm, the small farm that I'm talking about, it is registered. So registration is good. It informs on who maybe the shareholder, could be part of your family, that every member of the family is a shareholder in that investment. Now, what does that mean? When I'm a shareholder into something, I'm going to protect the sanctity of that investment. Okay? 2, it gives parameters of who does what in that investment. So your young brother is not going to come up and say, for me, I have a master's degree, I am the right person to be able to. No, it doesn't matter whether you have a PhD or you have what, or you are number one in the family. But in the registration process, what is, let me call it infrastructure. Who does what in this kind of infrastructure? That is number one. Number 2, protection is what we talked about the family. The harmony of the family. A family that works together. A family that is together. A family that respects each other. For me, that is a very, very important safeguard in as far as protection of what you have labored for, what you have planned for retirement. If you are going to have a family where somebody is going to say, Daddy has lived long, you should go. You know that everything that you have done is not protected. If members of the family you say, oh, let's go to the farm. You people, you go, I have more important things to do. Every member of the family must see how important they are to whatever investment that we're talking about. Okay? If you're going to have people, okay, we are going to have these days families, some people live in the Bahamas, some live in Japan, some live in the UK, some live, they are almost everywhere in the world. They don't need to be there. But I want to tell you, a family that has interest on what has been done, they are interested to know who is there. They're interested to know who looks after that property. They are interested to know their accounts, if there is anything I will give an example. I will not mention a name. There is a judge who passed on. Yes. And the other Christmas, I had some my family, coming together. And then I needed some few things. And they have this business where they deal in, I don't know, chairs, tables,
furniture.
Yes, furniture, but also the clothing. What do you call it? Decoration?
Decoration.
Yeah, the decoration,
oh, yes.
and all that. They even do catering. Yes. So I went there. And when I reached there, in Mbarara, in Uruharo, people now in Mbarara know what I'm talking about. That family, the family head was a judge of the High Court. I found them in a meeting, lawyers, economists, their mother, everywhere. They had an uncle who's everyone was in a meeting, and they seemed to be like, oh, that guy is serious. Have not reached there. You know, one of the sons who is now the managing director of there, and everybody was giving an account on what you are doing. How I love that we have that kind of family. A family that is going to protect, a family that is going to add on something. You know, if I know my dad left something, it's natural that I also want to leave something to my children. Now, from generation to generation, there is a family of wealth creators. Okay? But there are also a family that destroys the wealth that has been created by someone. Then we call them family wealth the destructors, if that word is there. Okay? Because everybody knows that I saw a video where a father is still alive, a parent is still alive, but every child goes to like capture him, kidnap him, if I can use that word, so that he's in your home, so that he can tell you what he has, so that you can, you know, it's like, now if I have him and I take him for treatment, I keep him in my house, then I will have a say on what is happening. Maybe he can tell us what he has not told us. You understand? Yes. It means that there's no will. It means that there's nothing that shows what is going to happen. Don't leave your family in that kind of apprehension, in that kind of situation, okay? And children, when you reach a point of your daughter who was married in Mbare or in Tororo or in Ibushenyi or in Shema, where I come from, they are going to come and kidnap me and keep me there, and they are all complaining, Dad is going to die. Invest in that family. The family is going to guarantee, is going to protect what you have achieved. The other issue about protection is being candid. Is being candid at a certain point. I've retired. Why should I keep on hiding the fact that I have an account maybe in the UK or in where? At what point do I want to tell my family that I have this? I bought a flat or an apartment somewhere in Jinja. It's on Speak Road somewhere in Jinja. Why shouldn't I be able to talk about these things? The moment you talk about them, then the family is going to kind of, you know, be like the guarantor of whatever you have achieved. So I may say so many things on this point, but I think again it goes to our subject today. It goes about family, about, you know, the guarantees, the safeguards that you must put in place in order to ensure that everything is protected by the family. Maybe lastly, this is a Ugandan thing, and I think I should talk about it.
Please.
At my age, you may find I have children whom I don't know, or I mean whom other people don't know. I have seen a retired man is dying, and some people come around and they say, this is his child. You can be 70 years and then there is a kid of 4 months.
Yes.
Yeah, somebody has just come and is declaring that this is your child. Okay? When it comes to that, I am not sure whether even what you worked for is being guaranteed. I think we need to be more open, okay, about the family we're talking about. What family are we talking about? Who are those people that we're talking about? By the way, I may have had somebody who grew up in my home. He or she is not my biological child.
That's true.
But the fact that I took up this child when the child was 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, looked after, educated that person, she knows no other person except me. Then it is natural that the family must know that this is part of the family. And I can tell you that those people are going to guarantee, are going to protect even from your own children who want to who want to destroy
Yes.
to destroy the property. And lastly, people don't want to hear about the will. I come from the police side. That police side is still within me. And I can see and I can tell you that the police deal with lots of issues about property because you did not
Distribute it.
you did not provide clarity about what would happen to the property when you have exited this world, and as all of us must exit. And I think it is better that you go and prepare and prepare your family vis-a-vis what you have. I think that is what the will is all about. The will is not going to say that is my child and stops there. Does it? You're a lawyer. It doesn't say that. The will goes on to say that I have this, I bequeath this to so and so, so and so, and so and so, and so and so. So those who are listening to me, you know that time will come and we shall exit. And if we want to protect what we have as a family that is going to transcend us through generation to another generation, then we need to protect this. Are we not all proud about people we see in town and then they say, oh, your mwana wa gundi. Your mwana wa owekitiibwa gundi ne gundi. Echagwe baina yika. Not yika. Mairo. Baina square mairo yetaka. And these guys, when you look at them, the way they wear, because they are proud to belong to a certain family, they will never take anything. Instead, they would be taking people to go and see what their fathers left. I have seen a family in Mukono. They have a library of what their father used to do. Okay, and everything is there, including the pianos which they used to play. Everything is intact and is in place. Everybody wants to make sure that it is kept like a museum, a relic or something like that. But it's part of the family that everybody is proud of. And that is what we must inculcate into our families so that everything that we have worked for is kept in a secure manner.
Wow, that is quite elaborate. You know, we cause our own downfalls in most times in society, and thank you for clearly elaborating that when you work with your family, you know, plan with your family, then you'll have continuity. In most of, I've seen it a lot in the central, I don't know whether it's also in the west, the families that you do mention, that that's so-and-so's family.
Yes.
They own acres in Muyenga, they own land in Kololo, because they've appreciated the hard work put into it.
And we keep on complaining, why so-and-so's
Exactly.
family? They have invested in that
In
family.
that family.
That good job
Exactly.
will be given to that member of the family because they have a track record. But for you, if you keep on selling your 1 acre and the guys are not even having jobs, then you come up and say, why is it that family? Protect what was in that family so that you can have a robust family.
That is very sound advice. And we tend to forget keeping our things under mattresses, in the banks, you know, investing everywhere like you guided. But when no one knows what you're investing in.
Yes.
So when the time comes, how will you distribute it? Actually, they'll be fighting for it because there's no cohesion. I like the fact that these days, after a lot of sensitization, people are now sitting down with their families and on a round table. This is what we have. And you know, some people fear that when I tell my children what I have, they may plan to kill me. That is a sentiment. Or they may plan that maybe let's take daddy or mommy somewhere else so that or they'll become lazy and not work. But I don't believe in that kind of sentiment because you instill discipline in your children. You instill discipline in the children, and the children learn how to to preserve. It's about preservation, continuity. So there are a few questions. Of course, I like your last phrase of wills. People need to write down everything they own, distribute so that there is continuity. So there are a few questions. This one I think will be to retired AIGP. It says, I'm apparently a kid to all here and still a student. I'm concerned about my parents involving me into retirement. One has retired, the other is about. But there are financial issues that come up every time I'm involved. So what do you do when you're involved? A little late. And you find a burden to clear loans, heavy ones that you didn't know before, and they are stressed and they need some guidance.
That is very true. There are people who have retired, and then instead of retiring on something, even the retirement benefits from NSSF and even from other, benefits that are given, including pension, goes to pay a debt. Then after that, you find that the children are now going to literally be doing everything, pay for health, pay for all these things, including even in church. In church, you have
Offertory.
yes, not even offertory, because there is something you are supposed to. In Runyankore, call it a chuero.
The time?
Yes, there is some amount of money you must pay in a year. So somebody has to pay that money for you. Let me say this. I think as children, we also need to have a meeting. We have to have a discussion. We have to have, candid discussion about our parents who are in that kind of category. Talk to them to understand for example, what is it that they have. But if they don't, and they are going to be involved in this, and then you are going to be stressed, even you yourself,
Sure.
because you have a family you have to run. You also have your own plans, but you are not going to keep on paying this and that and that. How about if I go to my parents and say, Dad, there was this issue and this and this, and we had to pay 5 million. Would you like to tell us if you have something else that you have accumulated, you have acquired, a loan, or something, and if you find it out, and then you begin to discuss on what should be done. Okay, maybe there is something an estate can do in order to generate that money.
Income.
And so it is important that you understand so well. But also, don't be away from your parents who have retired or who cannot be. Be with them. Be with them, plan for them. Don't neglect them. If you neglect them, other parties will come to tell them that they can do this and this and this and this. They can give them some money. And when they give them money, they make them write arguments that should they fail to pay, they actually they don't say should they fail to pay. They say so and so has sold me land.
Yeah.
They
transfer.
They put a date. They put a date when the loan is supposed to get finished. Okay, they forward the date. If you are supposed to finish in December, they say 30th December to 2024. We are now in June. That's when you are supposed. They say he has sold me land.
Oh dear.
Now, when you fail to pay by 30th of December, somebody shows up and says, I want to do something to my land. All of you are evicted from that land. Now, if you children, that is something that you don't want to see. Okay? So instead of blaming them, understand exactly what it is and then how you can sort it out.
Oh, great. Another question for you, retired IGP, is should we start involving our families in our investment decisions or discussions? How good can we make it? Please guide. There are 2 people in Koboko where after they were involved, their spouses were involved in the discussion. Their wives filed for divorce. Some of them feel like they need to give up. How can he support?
My understanding is that when their husbands try to get involved in their parents' property, then they file for divorce. They don't want to get involved in something like that.
Yes, because they openly had that discussion with them. That he says our investment decisions. They had a discussion with them, and then when they discussed with their families, the spouses left.
Okay. I think my intuition tells me that even when you have a family, this is your family. I have a family of my own children. Maybe I have boys who are married. Maybe girls are also married to other people. So when we are dealing with an intricate situation like that, and we have spouses, we should plan with the spouses. So that the spouses know
And
appreciate the kind of decisions that we are going to make. But if you tell your wife and say teweyingiza mu nsonga zino tezikukwatako tuli mu nsonga z'aba mutima ate gwe gwe oli wa butiko something
Sure,
like that,
yes.
toyina engeri gy'okola ki naye jjukira that it is important that your spouse appreciates the sacrifices you are going to make for the family. I think when we do that, then we are not going to run into trouble like that.
That's good. Thank you very much. Tony, how did you manage the transition from leaving the job at an early age to focus on your company? And there is a consequence where you plan for retirement, but your payment at the workplace is not sustainable. Is it possible to retire early enough so as to start your own business?
Thank you so much for the question. I think before I answer that question, also maybe want to build on to the question earlier given to AIGP retired Hassan. You see, estate planning is a very sensitive space that you shouldn't try to navigate on your own. And I'll give you the reasons why. Because when you talk about estate plan, a will is only a component of the estate plan.
Yeah.
Because when you look at the pyramid of estate planning, there is the will, then there's the element of taxation. Then when you go down, you have things like retirement, which we are talking about. There are things like inheritance. There are things like asset transfer. Okay. Now, when you go in depth of those things and having a conversation with the family, on your own, you cannot navigate it. You actually need a professional. And which professionals? You need multiple professionals. And the example you gave, where you met lawyers and you met financial advisors, because actually the lower part of the 4 areas before the will and tax is actually done by a financial advisor. So you need a lawyer along with a financial advisor. And depending on the estate size, you may even need a tax planner. Meaning if your estate is beyond one jurisdiction, you probably need a tax planner or more than one tax planner that understands the different markets. If you do navigate it on your own, and kids heavily compare. And beyond that, and I'm sharing from my experience, when you're doing a distribution, because the actual will we know here is actual distribution of assets. The estate plans that I've actually seen, and I've had the privilege to work with families that are doing generational wealth, because the family we work with, I think we have a family that is 4th generation. They're a bit different from what we see. In the normal will here that we have, you have actually what you have an asset distribution. Because all our kids are different. All our family members are different. They have different abilities. Sometimes there are families where you have kids who have special needs. How are those taken care of?
Yeah.
Will they be able to manage on their own? How have you factored in all those aspects? Now, on your own, you may not be able to actually navigate those waters, so you actually need professionals to guide you on that. It's very, very important.
Totally.
They are affordable. Usually there's a question, where do wills kept? Today there are many service providers in this market, even with law firms now offering that in terms of archiving. So there is no reason whatsoever, because each and every one of us has something to give.
Yes.
The example you talked about, someone talked about a generation inheriting debt. There are 2 things each and every one of us will give. You either give assets or you give liabilities. You have a choice, but at least at the bare minimum, do not leave your family with liabilities. Because we are living in an era where it's not a guarantee that our children will take care of us, because there are very many demands. In fact, when I'm working with most of my clients, I want to preempt any option of you depending on the kids. You probably won't have a plan that doesn't have to depend on the kids. You have better chances that way. The times are gone where I have to rely on them, because today kids go in other countries, they relocate, they get married wherever they want to get married. So the whole dynamics of estate plan, which is a good conversation, because a will should actually be able to show things like, what would you want them to do? Where do you want them to do in terms of charity? It shouldn't be asset distribution, because a child will ask you, why did you give me in Kololo? And you gave this one in Naguru.
Yes.
Why did you give me 1 acre and you gave that one 100 acres? On which basis? So you're actually leaving them a bigger problem. when you have professionals working with you, you're able to address an element which is called fair versus equal. And in many times, unlike family, it doesn't matter what kind of wealth you have, provided that harmony is not there, it's only a matter of time for that wealth to start dwindling. But at least with the proper estate planning, you have proper guidelines. And my apologies, I've spent much on that, but I think it's very, very critical, especially if you're talking about family and retirement. Back to the question.
Please.
Of how did I decide on... Again, each and every one of us is unique. If you ask me whether I was prepared, I was not prepared. Because like I shared with you, I think when I decided to leave my business, I think I had planned, in our actual plan, I was supposed to continue to work for another 6 years.
Yes.
Then here comes an opportunity where I have to make a choice. Either continue to work with my employer and leave something that I've dearly built. I think at that time my wife had even resigned and started working the business. Or I stick along with the job and live this passion. In many times, just like life, we will never be prepared.
That's true.
In many times.
That's true.
We'll never be prepared. But I think there are some things you need to do as you continue to work at an early stage, maybe from year 25 to pretty much maybe 35. Because I appreciate the fact that my time in corporate, it helped me to learn lots of things like structuring, how to run an enterprise, what needs to be done, what are processes. So there's an experience, because when we're talking about assets, there are 3 types of assets. There are the financial assets which we talk about, which is property, which is any young person probably, or person in corporate space will say, but I don't have these assets, how am I going to survive? Okay? And then there's what we have, what we call intellectual assets. Intellectual assets are things like your experience, things like your skill set, things like your values, you know, the intellectual, and that grows over a period of time. And then there's what we call the human capital, human assets. In many times, we get so buffed down by these financial assets, thinking that I need to have those to actually be able to make a leap and get out. From my experience, and I shared with you, we are all unique. And I've worked with very many people, those even younger than me, that have actually made such bold moves. But our circumstances are unique. The only thing I can advise is you need a professional guidance to make that decision. Do not be in a rush. Sometimes waiting is good. But you won't know unless, because you need to be able to separate your decision based on your mind and your heart. How I was able to do that is because I was so sold to something that I like doing. I enjoy wake up every day, because my job and how I take my job is every single day. I wake up to protect families. Even on sharing on a platform like this, maybe someone will pick out something and they'll go and do. For me,
that's true.
That I may not know, because one thing I can tell you for sure, we are all parents. We are all planning for our parents. I mean, we're all planning for our children. But one thing we can't be certain about is who will be our in-law. But I'm hoping, because today you cannot.
That's true.
But I'm hoping that as
That's
we are
true.
able to share, and I believe the same thinking with the IGP, Richard Hassan, is the more we share these ideas and the more we're able to give you perception or perspectives, you're able to go back and plan better. And that way, me and you will actually have been able to give our children a good head start, because maybe our in-law will have been prepared better for, as we are also preparing for our children. I hope it makes sense.
Yes, it does. In just one sentence, there are just a few questions. One is, what happens if I receive a letter and my contract has come to an end? How do I move forward?
Oh,
yes.
If your contract
has come to an end, I've received my letter, because someone says you're talking to someone who received a letter yesterday that your terms have come to an end. It's time to go.
Okay.
Yes.
My hunch is that you have been planning. Please go to what you have planned for. And we shall continue talking about this, that please plan. But if you had not planned, everything is not in vain. First of all, retirement is going to need your mindset. Retirement is what your mind is telling you. If you think that everything is now all in shambles, you are in trouble because the car is going to be taken, because the fuel card is going to be taken, because the salary has been taken, because, you know, nobody's going to call you. No, 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 no. Don't panic. Don't panic. Hand over your office. Tomorrow go home, reach home, rest a bit. Could be 1 month. And again, now start figuring out what you need to do. Number two, you are going to get some benefits. Yes. Definitely. There are people who are going to come knocking on your door that you can do this, you can invest it here. They are going to start planning for you. Do not put yourself in a vulnerable situation where you are even going to get loans. You know, somebody can say you have some money. They don't plan for you on how to use that money that is there. Let me give an example. You have 50 million that has been put there by NSSF. Yes. Okay?
Yes.
Now, then somebody comes, maybe a bank or any other, okay? And then it comes and says, they don't say, let's plan for you for the 50 million. They will tell you that you can actually have a car of 100 million, and the 50 million they only need to add on so that you can buy a car of 100 million. In short, the bank or any financial institution of that nature is looking at a big portfolio for you to start paying, you know, interest to this loan. By the time you finish 1 year, you do not only have your money, but you have a loan that you are going to service, and yet you don't have where money is coming from. And yet even this car is big, maybe demands a lot of fuel. Okay? So what I'm trying to say is that take some little time, plan so that you can do something. I am sure in NSSF you have people who advisors of people who retire on what they should do with their money. So let him or her come and then talk to these people on what should be done. But do not panic. Do not think the world is coming to an end. Very soon, I can guarantee, because I have gone through this, very soon you will even appreciate that you needed retirement. Number two, you will also realize that even retirement is better than where you were. Yeah. When I wrote something thanking the president, because I have never thanked the president. And people were saying, oh, Ruseke, okuba Ruseke, oyagala bakuwe ekifo. I am well.
Yeah.
I am well. And that comes in with retirement.
Great. Thank you so much. Tony, how would you handle divided attention in family? You've set up something which is to bring in money. You want to involve them, but they have totally different interests. In one sentence.
Again, it only takes me back to navigate those waters with a professional, because when you have a third party coming to a conversation, they're actually able to give you a perspective on what other people are doing. And again, it's unique. When you say divided attention, I mean, for someone, divided attention may mean I'm not interested in that business. So what happens for a family member who does not want to get involved in family business? They can actually they can still be a beneficiary, but not employed in the business. There are provisions for that. The whole purpose is to make sure that this great gift that you're giving people, let it not be a big burden to them. Let it allow them to be able to pursue whatever they desire to pursue, depending on their different desires. So divided attention may mean something totally different. It could mean I'm not up for this responsibility, get someone else to do that. It could be I don't trust this trustee. So those are elements that will come in if you don't have a third party that is helping you navigate that conversation. And by the way, you don't have to be so wealthy to start a conversation on estate planning. You don't have to be so wealthy to do that.
Okay, thank you very much. There were a few questions about midterm access. Midterm access, someone is asking when and how can they mentally prepare themselves to come and gain midterm access, even if they are not at that retirement age. But I think, Tony, you addressed that don't come in to start something new. And also retired AIGP said that, you know what, sit down, plan, engage financial advisors. By the time you come in, you already know what you're going to do with the money in the right way. Yes, so I think that one you handled. And then the last was about what happens, what is retirement? Does it apply to private sector as well as government employees?
It applies to all. It applies to
Amazing.
those who are in civil service, public servants, and even when you are in your private
In your own business,
private
self-employed.
employment.
Yes.
It's actually more difficult when you're in your private business.
Oh, yes.
I struggle a lot with business owners
Yeah.
to
Yes.
plan a transition because this is their lifestyle, this their livelihood.
Yeah.
There's a client I'm working with, about I think 69, and because that's what they've been doing for the last 20-something years. The kids are of age, they're bringing great initiatives, but they're becoming a burden to themselves in the business. So the business is stalling because of the creator of the business. So again, like AIGP has
said,
mentioned,
yeah.
it applies to every single, and you being able to know this is the time.
Great. Tony, in 2 minutes, please give us your parting shots. Any resources or books that you would recommend people to read, which financial advisors, then we'll go to Retire Day.
Well, for me, I think my parting shots are we owe our families the bare minimum of an estate plan. Something that's going to guide them that in case, not because of death, most people think about death because there are other things, but in case I'm not in the rightful mindset to make certain decisions, they know exactly what to navigate. In case I may be critically ill, I shouldn't be a burden, but I should actually have tools within my plan to make sure that at least they are available. They don't look at me as a challenge to them. That's when you need them most. And in case you're not around, there's actually proper guidance. Then that's the only way you know that you have a chance, maybe for a legacy. Thank you.
And Tony, please share your phone number as well and your offices.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that-
Our offices are on Acacia Mall, 4th floor. Our office in Nairobi is on Delta 2 corner in Westlands. And my number is 0752 103 996. It's 0752 103 996. And my email is Tony, TONNY, at eitoncapital.com. Eiton Capital is EITON Capital. Eiton Capital is one word.com.
Over to you, retired IGP.
I just want to, my parting shot is that retirement, to me, invariably depends on 3 most important things. Number 1, planning. That you'll never be late. Start planning for your retirement. What you want to be in 10 years, begin to plan it now. When you reach 40, Tony talked about the age between 40 to 60. There, still plan what you want to be when you become 70, when you become 80. So planning is important. That is number 1. Number 2 is about the family that we're talking about now. Please make sure that you involve your family in the planning and in whatever you do. That will be important in as far as how many years you're going to live. Let me tell you, I feel so young in my body. I'm 60 years now, some few months in 60 years. But I feel like I am 40 or something like that. And I want to live until when I become 60. Now you understand what I mean.
Yes,
I feel like I'm 40 or 30, I want to live up to 60, which
60.
means if I live those 30 years, I'm pushing myself to 90 years.
Yes.
So
Exactly.
it is important you plan with the family. If the family is not with you, it is going to put so much stress and so much pressure into you. But also, I can share this, that retirement, you're going to enjoy retirement depending on how you conducted yourself when you were on work. Okay? So issues like honesty, issues like humility,
Integrity.
issues like integrity, issues all those issues, respect to people, how you respected yourself, all these things are going to be thrown back to you in equal measure when you leave the office. So we may talk about so much money, but people don't want to deal with you because they think that while you were in office, you were a dubious person. Okay, you want to get some loan somewhere, then they were going to say this man is a dubious person, we know him on what he did. Okay, but people are willing to help you, to give back to you, because you helped society. You did what we call Rotarians, a service above self. So these three things are so important to everybody. But sticking out, as we discuss now, is the family, the sanctity of that family, the health of that family, the unit of that family will make you who you will be in so many years. I thank you so much, and may God bless you.
Okay, could you share your number as well?
Oh, I am on. I have two numbers. The third one, I don't. Very many people don't want to use it, but I'm on 0772 40 63 30. 0772 40 63 30. And then I'm on 0707 71 21 20. 0707 71 21 30. My office is on Lane Street. That is in Tinda Chiwature Road. There's an independent hospital. Turn on your right on what is Agape Lane. Sorry, it is Agape Lane. I've been there 2 months, so you'll excuse me.
It's okay.
You excuse me.
It's okay.
Yeah, Agape Lane, and you'll find Tayari Security Office. Anyone who wants private security, Tayari, we are the best on the market.
Okay, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for listening in. I hope you've been guided in your families and how to manage investments, how to retire, how to plan, how to stand as one. It starts from the upbringing of the family, the unit that you have, and continuity. And above all, seeking help. I kept on hearing, seek help, financial support. There's so many people around us that can help. I also learned that you don't have to think that I have to invest big. Start small. Small things grow, like a mustard seed grows into a huge branch. So let us plan wisely. And the beauty is, panelists, one of them is in retirement. You know, it's not retiring from work, but retire from work, but not life. Yes. So we've had his version, and we can also do something better than that. Allow us to close this, and may you be guided as you plan and deliberate in your investment decisions that you take in your work life. There is always an entry and an exit. So let us plan wisely. Let us work together, our families, and not against our families. And let's build each other. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.